Every empire claims its money is safe. Every government swears its promises will last forever. And every time history proves them wrong. From Rome to France, from the Confederacy to modern Lebanon, people have woken up one morning to find their savings worthless, their salaries meaningless, and the secure systems they trusted had taken everything from them. Collapse isn't the exception. Collapse is the rule. So the real question is this. It's not if financial systems will sink, but how will you protect yourself when they do? The illusion of permanence is the most dangerous financial mistake of all. We look at the numbers in our bank accounts, our national currency, and assume they're as solid as rock. But money isn't rock. Money is trust. And trust can vanish overnight. That's why history is both brutal and enlightening. Every downfall leaves behind a trail of lessons, signs, and warnings. It shows us what truly protects wealth and what fades into dust. And if you look closely, you'll notice this pattern. The survivors of these disasters weren't the ones who trusted most, but the ones who doubted first. From Rome to Byzantium, the golden face of money, the Byzantine Empire, known as the eastern half of Rome that survived 1,000 years longer, had one symbol at the heart of its economy, the solidus. It was so reliable that merchants from Europe to Asia accepted it without question. It was the medieval world's global reserve currency. But here's the ironic part. They knew exactly how Rome had fallen before them when emperors kept watering down the silver denarius until it was nothing but tin with a silver coat. You'd think they'd learned, but no. Centuries later, the Byzantines made the same mistake with gold. They began mixing in cheaper metals, lowering purity bit by bit. At first, nobody noticed. Then, trust cracked. That golden coin, once the backbone of Mediterranean trade, became nothing but a political illusion. Value dropped, the economy shook, and once again trust disappeared. So who stayed strong? Not governments, not paper promises, but those who held real gold or land beyond the empire's reach. They preserved their wealth, while everyone else watched theirs evaporate. The first timeless lesson: governments can never resist the temptation to dilute their money. And when that moment comes, real value flees to assets they can't fake. The Black Death, crisis, and opportunity. Not every collapse comes from rulers. Sometimes the blow comes from nowhere. In the mid-14th century, Europe was struck by the deadliest plague in its history, the Black Death. Between 1347 and 1351, half the population was gone. Cities emptied, villages vanished, trade routes broke down. But the economic side is fascinating. When people disappear, labor becomes precious. Survivors demanded higher wages. Fields lay empty, houses abandoned. Suddenly land was plentiful. Those with liquidity, some silver, trade goods, or simply the skill to work, suddenly found themselves with power. Land that once cost a fortune could be bought for a fraction. Sound familiar? It should, because during COVID, we lived through the same rhythm. Supply chains collapsed, governments printed trillions, and those with cash grabbed the opportunities, while wage earners fell behind. Housing prices soared, as stocks bounced back overnight, but millions struggled to pay rent. Once again, history whispered the same truth. Pandemics redistribute wealth. They always have. Florence, the death of trust. Renaissance, Florence, dash, dash. Europe's financial capital. Banking giants like the Bardi and Peruzzi lent to kings. But their biggest mistake: they lent massive sums to King Edward III of England. When he couldn't pay, Florence's mighty banks collapsed. Deposits vanished, trade froze, and the people learned what too big to fail really means. Those powerful institutions everyone trusted fell overnight. The lesson? Too big to fail is the oldest lie in finance. Institutions exist to protect themselves, not you. And when they fall, they take you with them. The American Civil War, the rotting face of money. When people think of the Civil War, they remember Lincoln, slavery, and battles. But behind it all was another war, a financial one. Both the Union and the Confederacy printed money to pay for the fight. The North printed greenbacks, paper money backed only by faith. At first it felt bold and patriotic, but as more bills were printed, each one bought less. In the South it was worse. The Confederacy printed graybacks endlessly. By war's end, inflation was beyond imagination. Salaries became worthless before they could even be spent. People carried sacks of money just to buy a loaf of bread. By 1865, Confederate currency wasn't weak. It was dead. What survived? Not paper promises, but real goods: land, food, gold. The real held firm while illusion crumbled. It's a lesson Americans rarely remember, but should never forget. Even their own nation has lived through a currency collapse. France, the paper trap of revolution. In the 1790s, revolutionaries toppled the monarchy and seized church lands. They issued a new paper money, assignats. Backed by land, they promised stability. But the government kept printing, and every new note diluted the last. Prices soared, wages failed, and soon paper was worthless. Farmers refused to sell food for it. Bread riots returned, and the revolution devoured itself. The survivors, those who held food, silver, or property, things the government couldn't print. Asia, the debt trap. In 1997, a crash in Thailand's currency sparked a chain reaction across Asia. Countries had borrowed in US dollars, confident their local currencies would hold. When they collapsed, debt became unpayable overnight. Banks failed. Millions lost jobs. Who survived? Those who held dollars. Who didn't? Ordinary people who trusted their local money. The lesson is harsh but simple. Debt in someone else's currency is a death trap. When the storm hits, it's not the creditor who drowns, it's the debtor. Bomb Lebanon and today. And perhaps the most chilling example, Lebanon. In 2019, the banks locked their doors. People couldn't access their own money. The Lebanese pound lost 90% of its value. A lifetime of savings vanished overnight. Doctors, engineers, teachers, all wiped out. Because that money, as it turned out, was never truly theirs. Your money in the bank is not a treasure chest. It's a loan you've given to a system, and that system can choose not to give it back. It happened before. In 2008, Americans lost homes, savings, retirements, while the very banks that caused the crisis were rescued. In 2020, trillions were printed again. The rich got richer, the workers got poorer. Same story. Those who trust most lose most. Those who prepare survive. What is real value? So the question stands, when everything collapses, how will you protect yourself? History gives answers: gold in Byzantium, cash after the Black Death, non-bank assets in Florence, land in the Confederacy, food in France, debt-free stability in Asia, cash outside banks in Lebanon. Different times, same truth. Salvation is never in paper, it's in the real. And here's the paradox. Collapse is both a disaster and an opportunity. For the unprepared, it's ruin. For the prepared, it's rebirth. After the plague, peasants became landowners. After 2008, those with cash bought homes cheap. History always says the same thing, or protection isn't just defense. It's recognizing the moment to act. But remember this. True wealth isn't only what you own, it's what you can do. The baker who can make bread, the craftsman who can repair, the farmer who can feed, the trader who can move goods. They didn't just survive, they rose. In every crisis, money loses meaning. But production never does. People must eat, live, and build. And those who can meet those needs are never poor for long. Final words. History teaches one thing. Every crisis is a transfer. From the trusting to the prepared, from paper to real, from the passive to the builders, the world will fall apart again. That's not the question. The question is, what will you be holding when it does? Will you hold promises or something real? History doesn't repeat. But if you ignore it, it will crush you just the same.